Welcome to Live Loud. Hello. Woohoo. Welcome to Live Loud. Live like outrageous and compromising. Welcome to Live Loud. Live like outrageous and compromising disciples.
Thanks, Sky, that was awesome. And hello to you. Hope that you've all had a fantastic week. It's great to be with you today. Well, we are carrying on in our mini-series looking at the book of James. We've looked at chapters 1 to 3 and today we're looking at chapter 4. So here we go. When I was at school, I remember a particular maths lesson. I used to sit at the back of the class and the teacher was doing his thing and I started to have a quick chat with my mate next to me. The next thing I knew, my maths teacher came walking down to the back of the class, shouting at me and telling me to not talk whilst he was talking. And you know, he got so close to me. He was like this close to my face as he was shouting at me. Our noses nearly touched. And as he was shouting that I was being rude and I shouldn't have talked to him, talked to my mate whilst he was talking and saying all of this stuff, out of the corner of my eye, I could see the rest of the class, as he was telling me off, had stood up and they were pointing and laughing and like making rude gestures to try and make me laugh. I didn't, thankfully, and I have to say, I think my maths teacher slightly overreacted, but at that moment, he was so cross with me. He started really to shout at me. And when he'd finished, I just sat there in silence thinking, oh gosh, I'm glad this is over and I'm glad I didn't laugh. Now you see, I know I shouldn't have been talking to my friend whilst he was teaching, and that was wrong. And he had every right to have a go at me and shout at me. The honest truth was I was one of the more well-behaved people in the class, so perhaps that's what made him even more angry, that at that moment it was me that was misbehaving. And you see, sometimes it's right and actually good and helpful to use strong words and to really say what you need to say. Maybe not in the case of my maths teacher, but there are loads of circumstances in life where it's really important that the people who we love and we trust and we like are able to speak strong words into our lives, to say things to help us and to direct us so that we might actually be better as a result of it. And that's what James is doing here. As we move into chapter 4, he realises that there's some hard things he needs to say to his readers. There's stuff that he needs to get across, and the only way he can really do it is to use quite shocking language, to be firm and in a sense strict with them. He's not telling them off, he's not having a go at them, because he loves them and he wants them to be the people who they can be in God. And so he has to say some strong stuff to them. Here's what it says in the first few verses of James chapter 4. Where do all the fights and quarrels among you come from? They come from your desires for pleasure, which are constantly fighting within you. You want things, but you cannot have them, so you are ready to kill. You strongly desire things, but you cannot get them, so you quarrel and fight. As we can see from these first few verses, things were beginning to unravel a bit in the churches which James was writing to. The people were starting to quarrel and argue and fight, and it even says that some were ready to kill. Things were happening, and James needed to address the issue head on. And so at this point he starts to say some tough stuff to them, in a sense to say the hard stuff so that they might begin to be better. Okay, it's time for a quick activity. What I want you to do is describe your perfect weekend to those that you're with. Now think about it. You can do anything that you want because all the expenses are paid, every meal, anything you buy, anywhere you go, it's all covered. Whoever's paying for this is paying for the lot. Have a little think about it and then describe your perfect weekend. I'd love to know what your perfect weekend looked like. Maybe you said some of the following things. Doing loads of shopping. Having a meal with your BFFs. Perhaps going to a theme park, or seeing the sights of London. Or maybe it was playing a sport that you love, or trying something completely new and different. I bet whatever you came up with for your perfect weekend, it was 100% fun. I bet it was just doing everything that you've ever wanted to do, all rammed into one weekend, but having the best time ever. I wish I could make that happen for you, but I'm sorry, I can't afford to do that. And I would have said the same thing. I'd have chosen all the things that I wanted to do and the people that I wanted to do them with, and that would have been my perfect weekend. And the point is, and I was trying to deliberately get us to, I guess, fall into this trap. When we think about the things that we want to do, it's usually all about us. And that was the situation that James was writing to his readers. They had got themselves into a place where they were so thinking about themselves, they were forgetting about everybody else. They were so desiring their pleasures that it didn't matter who they fell out with or had arguments with or even wanted to kill, as long as they would get what they wanted. Not only that, but this desire for these pleasures was becoming the most important thing in their life, even more important than their relationship with God. These things were getting in the way. And you know what? The same happens to us as well. And I'm guilty of this at times, where other things and the things that I want to do become more important than the things that God wants me to do. And so that's why James was writing to these Christians, to tell them that we need to put Jesus as first in our life. Okay, now it's time for a quick game. Okay, what you need for this game is one sheet of A4 paper, preferably an old bit, not a brand new sheet, one that you've written on and you don't need it anymore. And all I want you to do is screw it up into a ball, not really tightly, but just big enough so it fits in your hand like so. And now I'm going to demonstrate to you what I want you to do. I'm here in the upper hall and I'm going to show you how the game works. Now you're not going to throw it like you would a normal ball. What I want you to do is like a shot put, to sort of push it out your hands and then get a straight elbow and see how far you can get it to go. Let me show you. Are you ready? Push! Have a go with your family, see who can get it to go the furthest just by pushing it like that. When you've found out who the best shot putter is of paper, go and pick up your paper ball and this time take it out of the ball shape and try and model it by folding and screwing and ripping into a different shape other than a ball. I've managed to model mine into something which looked a little bit like a fish. See how you get on. In verses 7 to 8 of James chapter 4, it says this: "So then submit yourselves to God. Come near to God, and He will come near to you." Submit yourselves to God. Come near to God, and He will come near to you. Well, those words were so good, I thought it was worth hearing them twice. And this word submit, it might not be a word that we use that often or even that familiar with, but it means to give our whole selves over to. When we submit something to someone, it's saying take it all, have every single bit of it. And that's what James encourages us to do in our relationship with God, to submit all that we are over to Him, even our dreams and our desires, to hand them over to God. And a bit like we did with this piece of paper, to allow God to shape us and to mould us into the people that He wants us to be, to mould us and shape us to be a bit more like Him. So will we do that? It's a big challenge, it's a big thing to ask, but I think it's worth it. For me, when I became a Christian, submitting myself to Jesus was the best decision that I ever made. Then James goes on to say, draw near to God and he will draw near to us. You see, some of the people that were reading this letter that James had written, a bit like our game with the paper, had actually been pushing God away. They were pushing God away in favour of their own desires, which was actually causing quarrels and arguments and fighting. But instead of pushing God away, James says, well, why don't you draw near to him? Because when we do that, when we move closer to Jesus, Jesus moves closer to us. And it's not that God doesn't want to make the first move, but actually he waits for us because he invites us to do it. He doesn't want to assume, he's not going to be pushy and push himself onto us. But if we draw near to him, then he promises that he will draw near to us. So in the times when we're struggling, draw near to God. In the times when you're having fun with your friends and family, draw near to God. In every day, in every aspect, in everything that you're doing in your life, draw near to God and he will come close to you. Well, we've just looked at a few verses from James chapter 4 today, but feel free to go and read the whole chapter and see what you think about the strong language that James uses. Next week, we're going to look at James chapter 5, and I can't wait for you to join us. Thanks for joining us today. I hope that you have a brilliant week. Make sure you check out Wendy's video for the Bible reading challenge. I think it's Psalm 91. Get learning it, and you can even win a little prize. Have a brilliant time. Take care. See you next time. Bye.